What's going on, Summoners? My name is Nathan and I'll be your host for this video. With the new patch, it's that time again. We've got a whole new set of Korean builds for you all. Our in-house analysts have gathered builds for all 5 roles, so make sure you stay tuned whether you're looking to stay on top of the meta or just trying to find a new build to try out. Make sure you hit that sub button because you do not want to miss out on any of the content that we're creating, and also, it helps us out a ton. Now, let's go ahead and get started. We'll begin with the build for RENEKTON. While he's been a dominant pick in high elo, I know a lot of low elo, mid elo, and even casual players don't understand the hype. This new build is one that really pushes him towards a playstyle more suited for solo queue. You want to play aggressively and dominate lane using Prowler's Claw. It's incredible against champions who would otherwise kite RENEKTON. For runes, run Press the Attack, Triumph, Alacrity, Coup de Grace, Cheap Shot, Ravenous Hunter, Double Adaptive Force, and a defensive stat. For items, build Prowler's Claw, your choice of defensive boots, Blade of the Ruined King, Sterex Gauge, Edge of Night, and Guardian Angel. Take this a step further by running Ignite. You're gonna deal crazy burst damage with the combination of the Press Attack and Prowler's Claw to back you up. This build doesn't really make you fragile either. You'll eventually build a Sterex Gauge to keep you alive, and the Edge of Night shield definitely helps as well. By the way guys, if you're trying to improve at League, go ahead and check out ProGuides.com, where you can use the code RANKUP2021 to get 20% off our subscriptions. We've got tons of content to help you guys improve, so you don't want to miss it. Another build that we want to talk about is AATROX. Goredrinker has been all the hype for him ever since preseason, but now with the top lane, it's no surprise that Stridebreaker has found its way into his build. A bunch of high elo players both in and outside of Korea are starting to change up their builds based on matchups. Against mobile enemies, Stridebreaker is the move. You deal more damage and you can heal off of it instead of facing the struggles of getting kited. For runes, run Conqueror, Triumph, Legend Tenacity, Last Stand, Taste of Blood, Ravenous Hunter, Double Adaptive Force, and a defensive stat of your choice. Now for the items, you'll build Stridebreaker into Sterex Gauge as your core, defensive boots, Ravenous Hydra, Death's Dance, and a defensive item such as Spirit Visage, Guardian Angel, or Gargoyle Stoneplate. One more reason that you want to consider this build is that it provides AATROX with another dash. This makes his Q even more potent as it allows him to reposition a second time. With buffs to Everfrost recently, it's been slowly creeping up everywhere. GRAGAS top has been rather popular in the most recent patch, and we're seeing more and more players use Everfrost. The extra slow is a great addition for GRAGAS, who's already had so many non-targeted abilities. They can all combo into each other, but landing that first one is rather tricky. If you chose to use Everfrost to initiate, it'll make the follow-up easier. Otherwise, you can use it after stunning an enemy to root them and guarantee your ult landing. In terms of runes, run Phase Rush, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, Scorch, Biscuit Delivery, Cosmic Insight, Double Adaptive Force, and a defensive stat of your choice. For items, you'll build Everfrost, Ionian Boots of Lucidity, Sonya's Hourglass, Cosmic Drive, Banshee's Veil, and Morellonomicon. Another great part about this build is the immense amount of ability haste that it provides. There's a ton of it, and you'll be able to cast your abilities rather frequently. This will prove to be invaluable for both making a speedy escape and in middle of fights as well. Also, here's our question of the day. What champion or champions do you think got nerfed too hard this season? After an explosive start, I feel like Amumu was hit a little bit too hard. We probably haven't seen him in the meta so often because, maybe he's been busy. Seems like he's a little bit wrapped up with something. I'm sorry. He feels very lackluster in high elo, and while he was definitely overtuned, it was nice seeing him picked at all ranks for a short period of time. Let me know your answers in the comments down below. Speaking of, that wraps up all the top lane builds, so we put them on the screen one more time. Take a look and make sure you save them. Next up, let's run through the jungle. Like with AATROX, Stridebreaker has become more popular on OLAF as well. The issue is that Goredrinker is a little bit weaker than before, and Stridebreaker is a lifesaver when you'd otherwise be kited. The dash as well as the slow makes it so much easier to stick onto enemies, and for Olaf that definitely helps him land his first axe. Once you tag them once, running down an enemy and throwing consecutive Qs is a lot easier than trying to do it without any assistance. For the most part, the rest of the build is pretty straightforward. For runes, you'll run Conqueror, Triumph, Legend Alacrity, Last Stand, Magical Footwear, Approach Velocity, Double Adaptive Force, and Armor. Next, you'll build into Stridebreaker, Ionian Boots of Lucidity, Sterex Gauge, Death's Dance, Gargoyle Stoneplate, and either Dead Man's Plate against heavy AD or Force of Nature against heavy AP. We've got yet another Stridebreaker build, but this one is rather unique. When you use Stridebreaker on Vi, it adds some cool interactions with your Q. You can use Stridebreaker at any point during Vi's Q. While using it too early will make you miss out on the damage, you can break out of it early if you know you'll miss a target. If your charge Q connects, you can actually use Stridebreaker to change where you land. Normally, you'll simply knock an enemy forward and end up in front of them, but you can use this item's active as you hit them instead to end up behind or beside your target. This will make following up much stronger, as the best way to run away from you and avoid immediate damage would be run into the direction that you came from, rather than where they came from. Now, let's talk about runes. Use Hail of Blades, Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, Ultimate Hunter, Triumph, Alacrity, Double Adaptive Force, and Armor. Triumph is rather important in this build because you're not going to be buying much attack speed. For items, build Stridebreaker, Defensive Boots, Sterex Gauge, Death's Dance, Dead Man's Plate, and either a Guardian Angel or Kenpuk Chainsword. Stridebreaker is everywhere, and even Shaco players have started using it. Since Shaco's biggest form of mobility is his Q, it can be troublesome when players burn through Summoner Flash or defensive ability to get away after that initial jump. Using Stridebreaker, you can continue to chase foes down, even if they commit abilities to escaping. Especially since the norm is to run Ignite rather than Flash, you can use Stridebreaker to fill the void otherwise left by the missing Summoner spell. For runes, run Hail of Blade, Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, Relentless Hunter, Absolute Focus, Gathering Storm, Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and your choice of a defensive stat. For items, build Stridebreaker, Berserker's Greaves, Sanguine Blade, Essence Reaver, Mortal Reminder, and Infinity Edge. Essence Reaver is a great Spellblade item, and unfortunately there isn't too much flexibility in this build. Since you're running Stridebreaker as your mythic, you'll need to hit 60% crit chance for Infinity Edge through other means. The combination of Essence Reaver, Mortal Reminder, and Infinity Edge should get you to that point with no problem. That's it for the jungle build, so take a final look at the screen to recap all of them. Now let's head over to the mid lane. Nocturne mid has been gaining popularity once again. In Korea, he's considered to be one of the best mid laners because of his strong wave clear and constant sidling pressure via his ultimate. Yes, it's another Stridebreaker build. Stridebreaker is everywhere, and the reason that you build it on Nocturne is to ensure that you can get that fair off. Even if your opponent scrambles in an attempt to get away, Stridebreaker cuts down the movement speed and allows you to dash in to maintain that tether. Another reason that you might like this is that Nocturne doesn't have a built-in dash aside from his ultimate. Like any other champion, Stridebreaker provides some extra mobility to help you hunt down those more mobile carries. For runes, run Conqueror, Presence of Mind, Alacrity, Coup de Grace, Taste of Blood, Ultimate Hunter, Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and the situational defensive stat. For items, build Stridebreaker, Defensive Boots, Sterak's Gauge, Blade of the Rune King, Blight Cleaver, and either a Champunk Chainsword or Guardian Angel. A more supportive mid lane build that has made its way into the mid lane is Everfrost's AHRI. This build focuses more on getting a solid initial engage by comboing your Charm and Everfrost root together. AHRI can dash in with her ultimate and make this initial pick and then choose either to commit or back off with the other charges. Since solo queue relies so heavily on making picks, this is an excellent build, especially because teams tend to go in as 5 so often. For runes, you'll run Electrocute, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, Ultimate Hunter, Biscuit Delivery, Cosmic Insight, Double Adaptive Force, and a defensive stat of your choice. The items are Everfrost, Ionian Boots of Lucidity, Horizon Focus, Zanya's Hourglass, Void Staff, and Rabadon's Death Cap. Horizon Focus actually increases AHRI's burst damage rather significantly. Alongside her E, there's a ton of damage amplification to work off of, and you'll be able to still one-shot squishies even in the late game. That'll wrap up all the mid lane builds, so go ahead and save it as we're going to be putting it on the screen for you. Now, let's go ahead and go through the bottom lane builds. If you play a ton of Sivir, this build is probably something that you're already familiar with. For those of you who have been actually out of the loop or play rather infrequently, we've seen a Korean Sivir build surface some time ago. With all the hype around lethality marksman seemingly dead, Sivir has sprung up as a champion who refuses to let the trend die. Your core items for Sivir are Manamune and Duskblade, as these two items serve as powerful foundations. If you manage to burst down a foe, the short stealth the Duskblade provides can also be quite useful. For runes, run Dark Harvest, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, Ravenous Hunter, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and a defensive rune of your choice. For items, start with Tyr, then build into Manamune, Ionian Boots of Lucidity, Duskblade of Drakthar, Sorella's Grudge, Edge of Night, and Guardian Angel or Champunk Chainsword against heavy healing. Sivir deals a bunch of AoE damage, so Chainsword is especially good on her. While we've talked about Swain here and there, it's about time that we showed you guys a new build that surfaced recently for bottom lane Swain. Everfrost is a great item for basically any AB champion who doesn't have targeted crowd control. It makes it so much easier to land your important abilities, and Swain is no exception to this rule. Slow them down, then follow up with your E. You'll thank me later. For runes, run Electrocute, Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection, Ultimate Hunter, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and a situational defensive rune. Attack Speed will make last hitting easier, but you can replace this with Adaptive Force if you'd like. For items, build Everfrost, Sorcerer's Shoes, Zanya's Hourglass, Demonic Embrace, Rylai's Crystal Scepter, and Morellonomicon. Swain brings a ton of kill pressure already, but Everfrost can make the end of the laning phase a living nightmare for enemies who are doing their best to avoid fights altogether. That's it for the bottom lane builds, so take one more look at the screen for a recap of them. With all those covered, let's go ahead and conclude with the support builds. While Galio is an excellent mid laner, he's also been seeing a lot more play as a support as well. This flex pick is great because it allows mid lane Galio to be swapped out in case they get hard countered mid. As a support, Galio gets his job done pretty well. His damage is still rather high, and he can build a turbo chem tank to help you get in and lock in the priority targets. For runes, run Aftershock, Shield Bash, Bone Plating or Second Wind, Unflinching, Nimbus Cloak, Transcendence, Adaptive Force, and whatever stats that you need for the other two slots. For items, you'll build Turbo Chem Tank, Defensive Boots, Zeke's Convergence, and Knight's Vow. The situational last item is either a Thornmail for healing reduction, Zanya's Hourglass for the active, and either a Dead Man's Plate or Force of Nature for some extra movement speed. Finally, let's talk about this Neeko build. Nico support has recently gained a decent amount of popularity. This build focuses on enabling Nico as a carry support who deals high damage and impacts the mid-game with powerful roams. Your mythic item of choice is going to be Shirelia's Battle Song. When paired with Relentless Hunter and your passive Disguise, you'll be able to go for swift roams to hunt down overextended enemies. As the game progresses, you'll build a ton of AP and play as an AP carry who waits for the perfect moment to jump in with the big ultimate. For runes, run Electrocute, Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection, Relentless Hunter, Mana Flow Band, Scorch, Double Adaptive Force, and a defensive stat of your choice. For items, build Shard of the True Ice, Shirelia's Battle Song, Ionian Boost of Lucidity, Zhonya's Hourglass, Banshee's Veil, and either a Rabadon's Depth Cap or Morellonomicon. That's gonna be it for the support build, so let's take one last look on the screen for a recap. Thank you guys so much for watching, we really appreciate your time. Make sure to join our Discord with the link in the description down below, as we love to connect with you guys. Come and be a part of the community and hit me up. Let's go ahead and hang out. Let me know what you thought about the video in the comments down below, and I'll go ahead and talk to you guys next time. And with all that being said, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.